I moved into a new place, and I thought of buying a new bedside table. But where is the fun in that? So I decided to just build one. But how? Well, I didn't really have a plan, but I had this big board, so that's where I started. However, just the board wasn't gonna cut it. We're gonna need some tools. I also found myself something to measure with, my weapon of choice, and something to cut it with, even though I know that we'll have to find something else eventually. Alright, we got everything that we need, but before touching the board, there's one last thing. We measure. For the height, I decided to measure with my bed, which is going to be 41 centimeters tall, or 16 inches if you're one of my fellow Americans. And for the surface, I wanted something not tiny, just enough for some night stuff, a lamp, maybe a drink. So I went with 50 by 47.5 centimeters, which is 19.5 by 18.5 inches, which is big, but still tidy. And with a plan in mind, I started sketching out. And after many hours, every single line was finally down. Now all we needed to do before putting the pieces together was to cut. But as you saw earlier, we don't really have much for that. That's why I had to go with plan B. The drill. So we got our weapon, and it's time. It's time. I don't know what I'm doing, but guess we'll figure it out. I have to admit, I was quite scared of the first hole. What the fuck, bro? Just go through this shit. And after an hour of drilling, this happened. Oh my god. This is unbelievable. We got our first hole, everybody. Oh god, yes! And this is the start of it all. But what if I do it like this? Alright, that's pretty good. And to be honest, I thought I had it. I was convinced I had this big eureka moment, but after 30 minutes, I was just here. I just progressed a couple of centimeters. So, I went for the drill and screwdriver idea, which is making a lot of holes with the drill, and then with a screwdriver, just connecting them, destroying the piece of wood in between them. Which, as you can see, works fabulously. And after a couple of minutes, for the first time, we reached real progress. And at this point, I decided that the first piece had to come out. So I turned my board and I worked on the last side of the bottom piece. Now, I just want you to know that throughout this whole process, I'm absolutely shitting myself. I have no clue what I'm doing. I only get one try, and if this goes wrong, I'm not just messing up some wood, I'm getting publicly exposed as a certified idiot. Ah! Oh my god, bro. I made it. I made it. As you can see, the edges were looking kind of rough, so I grabbed some sandpaper to smooth them out. And damn, they turn out clean. And just like that, the first piece is done. One down and bunch more to go. I still have a whole board to break down. And now, well, you know the drill. I'm so funny. But yeah, we got the second piece out. After that, we took out this little piece that was hanging there. We took out the bumps. We sanded it a little bit. And just like that, piece numero 2 was ready. And at this point, it was just going downhill. I mean, yes, work still needed to be done, but I knew the sequence by heart. It was just do the holes, pull the piece out. Do the holes, pull it out. And yes, some pieces were more difficult than others, but after the whole day working on it, after completing the third macro piece, these were my final words. Alright, so one cut here, one cut here, one cut here. and one there, and we're done. But honestly, tomorrow. So tomorrow came and I had some serious work to do. It was time to set free all the pieces of the puzzle. And as you can see, I started dividing the two sides with a knife, but it was really difficult because the more further down you went, the more difficult it was to move the knife. So I got the drill back in my hands. Now let me tell ya, I was really anxious for this part. I had to make a tiny cut, just the thickness of a pencil graphite, between two pieces. It looked small, but it felt like everything depended on it. And after 50 minutes, this happened. Oh my god, bro. Oh, yes! Oh. Oh god. Oh my god, bro. So now I can finally do this. And after giving it the usual cleanup, it was finally ready. That's perfection, bro. And once that piece was locked in, fuck yeah. Straight up IKEA mode. From this point on forward, it was a piece of cake. And after forming the top white piece, I had all I needed to start drilling. I had the base, the two sides, the top, the pieces for the drawer, and this piece was the only thing missing, but I left it for last. It's finally time to assemble. And we're gonna start with putting down these things that make the drawer slide back and forth. And after taking all the measurements, the drill finally gets to do what it was born to do. But now it was time for the difficult part. And the way I thought of doing this was to put the two sides on the top piece first, so it's kind of like upside down, with two diagonal screws. And the idea was to hold the two sides in place as I planted two fat screws from the bottom piece to the sides. And that's what I did at the end. I am more than nervous to do this. Now keep in mind, at no point in this entire project have I ever knew what I was doing. And unfortunately, this is the perfect example of it. As you can see, the side is very wiggly and it's so thin that the board actually snapped in half. I had a bad feeling about it, but I kept going. So I went ahead and attached the other piece, and just as I was about to lay down the last bottom piece on top, everything fell apart. Ah, you dumbass! At this point, I genuinely thought that the video was over. The pieces were damaged, and I had no idea how to keep going. A couple of days later, I was looking at the pieces that I had at my disposal, and I ended up staring at this piece in particular, which originally I thought to use for the drawer. But after making all my measurements, I realized that for the drawer I needed less than half of the total piece, which meant that I was free to use more than half of that piece. So after forming it in the shape that I wanted, I used it to stabilize everything, and at the end of it, it was as stable as a goddamn house. And after I attached the top piece, the table itself was ready. I just needed to make the drawer. So I got all the pieces together. I also attached the wheels for it to slide back and forth. The only thing missing was the way that I was gonna pull it back and forth. And after some consideration, it wasn't easy at all, I just settled with this piece of wood that I would just grip to pull the drawer. And after attaching all of the Lego pieces, I could finally do this. Yeah. And so after many days, many days, or even weeks, this build was finally over. And somehow it actually worked. And I know it's not perfect, but it's mine. I built it with my bare hands. And that's enough. On that note, this video is over. I hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you at the next one. See you!